All right, today we're going to tie the Bunyan Bug #2. If you're about my age, you will remember when this movie right here came out. It's a river runs through it, and this is the fly from the iconic scene at the end. Norman is on the stream, and he's just wearing the trout out. He catches 3 or 4, and Paul can't seem to get a bite. So Paul hollers across the stream, "What are they biting on?" Well, this is what they were biting on. This is the Bunyan Bug #2. The #2 is a goldstone pattern, and they came in a handful of patterns. I don't actually know what any of the others look like because the only pictures I can find are of the #2, the golden stone pattern. So maybe that was the predominant pattern they made. I don't know. But in the movie, they're throwing the 1920s version of it, which was hand painted. In the 1930s, they went to kind of a tissue paper that had like an insect printed on it. And that was laid on here with the line wrapped over it and then the finish put over it. And it gave kind of an insect body look to it. But the originals were hand painted, and that's what we're going to do here today. This is already a long video, so I'm not going to ramble on here. Let's just get into it, and let's tie the Bunyan Bug #2. Okay, for our Bunyan Bug, we're going to use cork. And this is just a cork stopper from the craft store. You can pick these up. You can get a handful of them for a few dollars. And we're going to be using an Eagle Claw Aberdeen hook. I know this isn't a fly hook, but I use them for these Bunyan bugs and balsa bugs and stuff because they're extremely lightweight and they're really light wire. You can use heavier streamer hooks and stuff, but if you use too heavy of a hook and you get in rough water, it may not want to float as well as an extremely light hook. And I cannot find a dry fly hook that's as big as I want for these. So I've been using these Aberdeens, and they seem to do pretty well. They're not quite as long as I would like them to be, so they actually stop just a little bit short of the butt of the fly. Like if I put that eye right there, you can see it's just a little bit longer in the body, but they do pretty well, and they float extremely well. So here I have already cut a chunk of cork off, and for that I use a hacksaw blade. This is a rusty blade and stuff, but it's still new and sharp. And what you want to do is turn the teeth around towards you to cut with, because you can't push with nothing holding the other side of it. So when you got just the blade, turn the teeth towards you. And we're going to go ahead and rough this in just a little bit more. That'll save some sanding, because there's going to be a lot of sanding involved. So anything you can do to take a little bit of that off is going to help you in the long run. And this is a natural material, cork is, so you're going to have weird places in it. Like you can see these little divots and holes, and you're going to have places that are tougher and places that are weaker, and it's going to really mess with you when you're sanding on it. But because of that, you also have to be really careful, because you can break it really easy. You can also cut it with a blade, but I find that it kind of, see, it kind of smashes and tears. It doesn't really cut near as clean as the hacksaw blade. So that's why I use the blade mostly. And this is just 180 grit. It's kind of dirty. I've made a lot with it. The tail of this chunk that I've got here, and even the midsection right there, isn't too far off from the size that I want. But this head is pretty big. So, oh, and I'm gonna leave this factory bottom as the bottom of the fly. That way I know that the bottom is perfectly straight where the hook is going to set. So I'm going to go ahead and start removing some of this head down. There's going to be a lot of sanding involved with this, so here shortly I'm going to get the rolling on this thing, and I'll speed up the video so you guys don't have to watch it all. Okay, I've got this body shape pretty much how I want it. Sticking back past the bend of my hook just a little, and that's fine because I know this hook is a little bit short. So now we're going to cut the hook channel in it. And again, I'm going to use my hacksaw blade with the teeth turned towards me. And I'm going to use this little flat spot that I left for the bottom of it. And you want to try to get this as close as you can to going straight down the length of it. And I'm starting cutting, pushing away from me. If you try to pull to you, it's going to want to tear up your cork a little bit. So when you're starting it, just push away from you. And we'll take a little look, make sure I got it running straight and everything. This doesn't have to be real deep. It just needs to be deep enough to sit over the shank of this hook. So the front part of that is really good. I'm going to make this back part just a little bit deeper. And to do that, I don't want this end any deeper. So I'm just going to tilt this up and just use like the last two teeth to just drag that out. Basically just shave that out a little deeper on the back. And that looks good. It's a little bit rougher than I wanted. But this cork, you know, like I was saying, with it being a natural material, it's hard to make clean cuts. And even sanding it, it's hard to keep it clean because it's going to pull out little places. And, you know, it is what it is. It's cork. So you just have to do the best you can with it. And you're going to break a few of them. I broke one just a few minutes ago when I was trying to film this video. I got it down to where it was almost done and the end of it just snapped off. And you're going to have that sometimes. Just toss her to the side and get another piece and start going back at it. Okay, I thought we were done, but I forgot to cut the wing slot. And again, we're going to use our hacksaw blade for that. And you want to imagine that there's a line straight up through this from that hook slot right there. And then from there, you want to make this cut perpendicular to that hook. And and about midways of the body, or just slightly towards the top. So I'm gonna kind of line this up the best I can. And again, you want to push away from you to start the saw. And just cut a little bit at a time and check and make sure that you're not cutting crooked in any direction. It's pretty critical to get this right. And you got to be gentle too, because in an instant you can ruin all your hard work. I'm going to stop and look both directions. Cut just a little bit more, and I'm going to look and make sure that I'm cutting straight down it and not crooked that way. Making sure that I'm not cutting crooked this way. And I'm using extremely light pressure. I might take that just a tiny bit farther. And there we go. That's going to be our wing slot. So now we are done with this body, and we'll go to the vise and finish this fly up. Okay, this is going to be a number 2 Bunyan Bug, which is a golden stone. So I'm going to use some yellow thread, and we're going to dress this hook. And it's just going to give a little bit of something on the hook for the glue to stick to. That way everything holds together just a little bit better. And at the same time, we're going to tie in some monofilament here. And the monofilament is what's going to be used to wrap the body. And this is just some 10-pound monofilament. And it's kind of a green color. So it's going to stand out just a little bit on this yellow golden stone. And hopefully it'll make it look a little bit more ribbed. So I'm going to capture that. Pull that back just a little bit. Going to wrap all the way to the bend and then back to the eye. And then we'll tie our thread off at the eye. Caught my hook point a little bit there. And again, luckily I didn't cut it. I'm not unwinding my thread. It doesn't have to lay perfectly flat. In fact, if it's a little bit ribbed, it probably gets a little bit better grip on the glue. This is a really light wire hook, so it's flimsy. So I'm holding it to make it just a little bit sturdier. And we're going to wrap right up here to the eye. And once we get to it, we're just going to do like a 1 whip turn finish just to keep the thread from coming loose. And you can do that by hand. I do it with a tool just to make it a little easier. Pull our line back out of the way. And we're going to test fit this one more time just to make sure it fits how we want, especially after tying that line on it. And it looks like we're still pretty good. The hook's up in it nice and flush. So from here, we're going to go ahead and glue this in place. And for that, I just use Gorilla Gel Super Glue. Let me give this a good shake here. You can also use epoxy. You have more working time with epoxy than you do this glue. But with this gel, I can heap it up on here. So I'm going to start back here. And you can see that I'm able to heap this gel up, which is going to give me a lot of extra glue. That way it really fills this crack well. So then I'm going to start at the hook eye, and I've got my vise rolled up so my hook is straight up and down. I'm going to start at the hook eye and work my way back and push that down. And I want to make sure to keep the vise straight up and down and keep this slot horizontal. And we're just going to give that a couple minutes to set up, and then I'll come back and we'll work on it some more. Okay, I forgot to show it when I glued this on, but I'll push this down on, make sure that I've got it seated all the way onto the hook, and I'll make sure this slot is horizontal. And then I'll take a needle and go to the bottom here and just rake the glue off nice and smooth on the bottom. And that'll get all those clumps of extra glue and stuff that squeeze out, and get those off and make it nice and smooth on the bottom. But you've got maybe 30 seconds to touch that up nice before the glue starts to harden up good. But we're all set up now, and we're ready to move on. So now we're going to color the body. And for coloring the body, the easiest thing I found is just Sharpie markers. So this is going to be a number 2 Bunyan Bug, which is a golden stone pattern. And traditionally on these, from the slot back is yellow, from the slot forward is orange. So I'm going to do the yellow first, and I'm just going to draw a line across at the back of this slot. And then I'm going to color everything behind this slot yellow. Okay, just like that. And then I've got orange for the front. So I'm going to color this up here orange. This is orange, but it looks more red on this cork. It takes it up pretty heavy. Okay, now I'm going to take a piece of paper towel, and I'm just going to kind of blot this a little bit, and you can see some of it's going to come off, which is fine. It's just the excess. You can see a lot of that came off on there. Okay, now we're going to make the gold stone pattern on it. And for that, I'm going to use an ultra fine point Sharpie in black. Now you can look up pictures of this pattern online, and that's basically what I did when I started making these. But it's going to have kind of 2 triangles up here at the front. On the bigger ones, there would be 3. The smaller ones, which this is kind of a small one, there would be 2. And then there's going to be like little it's hard to explain. They're like little trapezoid shapes coming down the back that make it appear to have segments. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this fly up to me so I can see the top of it better. And I want to try to make a line kind of like where my vision disappears on it. So I'm not quite marking straight down the side, but it's pretty close. I'm going to use a straight edge just to try to make this look a little better. When I make these for myself, I actually take them out of the vise, hold it in my hand, and mark it, which makes it much easier than trying to do it in a vise so you can see. So I'm going to see if I can find something here that might make it a little easier. Maybe I'll try using this. Okay, that seemed to help make a straight line. This is my hackle gauge is what this is. So I'm going to turn it over and try to do the same thing on this side. Okay, so there's those. And then we're going to split this up in segments by making lines straight across the back, which is going to be, again, tough to do in the vise and make straight lines. Let me see if I can find something that might help, just to try to make it look better for you all. Well, that's probably not going to do much. I'll try a piece of foam here. Maybe that'll help me make some straight lines while letting you see in the camera. I'm going to start at the front. I'll work my way back. That way maybe I can see the spacing a little better. And I can't see the line on that side, so going down a little bit too far, but okay, this is kind of working, kind of not. I'll just freehand these last couple. Okay, not so pretty, but it'll work. Now on these, we want to make little triangles in the corner of these, and that's what gives it the segmented appearance. I'm going to go ahead and do this side that's towards me, and then I'll let you see it. Okay, so that's the little triangles. I'll do this other side. Okay, and then there's a top view of the whole thing. See, it kind of gives it a kind of the appearance of being segmented. Now we're going to do these triangles on top, which are supposed to be the wing case. Or I guess they're not really a triangle. They're, I guess, a rhomboid be the technical term for the shape. Okay, so there's those. And now you already saw me do one side, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the camera and do the other side, because you do the same thing on the bottom that you do on the top. So I'll go ahead and stop it, and then I'll show you that in a second. Okay, I've got my top and my bottom marked, and these originally were supposed to be an adult stonefly, and the butts are solid black on them, and that's supposed to be an egg sac. Just a little tip of it. Okay. And I forgot to mention also, in the 1920s, these were hand painted, and this is the pattern that they look like. And in the 1930s, they went to printing kind of it's supposed to be a stonefly, but to me it kind of looks like a caterpillar. And they would print that on a tissue paper type substance. And then that would actually be just laid over top of the fly. Like they would put the basic colors on it, you know, the orange, the yellow. Then they would lay that pattern over top of it and then finish over it. And it made these really nice little insect patterns on the fly that were supposed to be a stonefly insect. But again, to me, they look more like a caterpillar. But in the 1920s, which is how I'm tying this one, they were hand painted, and this is similar to what they look like. Okay, so now we're going to put the wing in. And traditionally, the wings were horse mane. And I don't have a supplier for horse mane. I don't know anywhere to get that. There are a lot of people around me who have horses, but they're all show horses. So I'm not going to go ask if I can cut a hunk of hair off of their show horse. But what I do have is elk mane, and I have moose mane. To me, I like the color of the elk mane a little better. The moose mane is a little darker. It's a little more black. But you can tie these in like a cicada pattern, and that dark colored hair works really well for a wing in that. So for this moose mane, or I mean this elk mane here, I'm going to try to pick out a spot where the hair is nice and long. Like right here looks to be a pretty decent spot. Maybe not. Maybe over here. But I'm going to pick out a pretty decent hunk of this hair, because a lot of this is going to be short stuff that comes out. And you need to get the maximum length on this, because when they were working with the horse mane, it was really long. They could just slap it in there and cut it to length, but you're going to have to do a little more work with this elk mane because it's not as long as a horse's mane. I actually might get just a little more than that. I don't think that'll be enough. Okay, so I'm going to get about that much. And to get, like I say, to get the maximum length, cut this off right at the leather. I mean, as low as you can get it. Okay. Now, I'm trying to get this in the camera. You want to hold this. You can actually see a lot of the short stuff sticking down here. You want to hold this out towards the tip, out here. And then I'm going to take my comb, and you're going to see all this short stuff and all this under fur and stuff that's going to come out of it. So all that right there is going to be waste. I'm going to kind of check it with my hands, pull out any other stuff that's too small. Okay. So now that's about what I got to work with. And even after I grabbed a little bit more, that's not quite going to be enough. So even I underestimated it that time. So I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to cut just a little bit more. Okay, so after I cleaned that up, I've got just a little bit more. I'm going to stack that with my first clump. And here, this is what I have now. Okay, now here is an important part to tying this fly with elk mane. If this was horsehair, you wouldn't have to worry about it. But on this elk mane, you can see when I'm holding this, these tips are all thin. And these butts are thick. So if you look at this all together, you can see this end is much bigger than this end. It's the same amount of hair, it's just the butt ends are thicker. If it was horsehair, it would all be the same length and it wouldn't matter, or the same diameter, I mean. So what we're going to do to help even this out is I'm going to try to estimate about half of this hair. So you can see I've split this. I'm actually going to get just a little bit more even. Okay, so now I've split this into 2 hunks. And I'm going to take one of those. I'm going to pull it out. And I'm going to turn it. I can't seem to get this in front of the camera. But there's one. And I've got the butt ends facing the other way on the other stack. And then I'm going to put those back together. Now I've got butt ends. I'm losing some. Let me get another grip. Okay. Now I've got butt ends at both ends, and the ends are much more even. So here, we're ready to put this wing in here. I'm going to hold this just a little bit off center so that the center is actually beside my fingers. And I'm going to go back to my glue again. I'm going to put a little bead of glue on the top of this. I'm going to put it in this slot, and then I'm going to pinch this slot shut on it and hold it. It's not going back in all the way. So I'm going to take my scissors and push that further back in that slot, and then pinch that shut on it. And now that should stay in there fairly well. Put my cap back on my super glue. Now we've still got our thread hanging here, and we've got this monofilament. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this monofilament and try to wrap it over the segments we created. I am pulling a little bit of tension on this so that it bites into the cork just a little. Being careful not to catch my wing, because you can still pull that wing out. It's not really bonded in there yet. So I'm going to get that one right up behind the wing. I'm going to make a full wrap behind it. And I'm going to cross in front of it. And I'm going to make a wrap there. And we'll go back behind it. And make a cross wrap there. Then I'm going to go back in front of it again, and I'm going to pull it down against the side of my hook eye. And I'm going to capture this a few times with my thread. And from here, we can go ahead and cut off this monofilament. I'm not going to cut it right against the eye. I'm leaving just a little bit of a tag so that it can't pull out. But I'm going to make a few more wraps over it, kind of tight, just to make sure it can't slip. And then I'm going to put about a 3-turn, if I can get out of my hair. All right, let me fan this wing back. So I'm going to push this wing back out of the way since I'm catching it. So I got a 3-turn whip finish on that. I'll snug that up. And then the tying part of the fly is essentially done. Looks like I caught a hair with my fishing line right there. So I'm going to snip that off. Any hairs that are out of place, you can snip those off. Not sure what this guy's deal is. Get rid of you. There's one that didn't get caught at all. So now I'm going to fan these wings out. And we're going to trim them. When I trim these, I like to make my wings about as long as my body is. So the way I'm going to gauge that is I'm going to use something like my comb. You can measure them if you want to get that technical. But usually what I'll do is I'll hold my comb up here and look at it and say, okay, I need just a hair longer than that comb. And I'm going to snip those off square. Then I'm going to do the same on the other side. I didn't actually get this side very square. Let me fix that. Okay. So now we've got our wings to the same length. And these Bunyan bugs, they kind of had a little notch in them, kind of like just trying to separate it into two separate wings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my fingers and pinch those together. I'm going to tilt that a little bit so it'll get in the frame. But I'm going to pinch that wing together with my fingers and then cut just a little, like a fishtail shape, out of the center of the swing. I'll tilt that camera down just a little. And you can see that wing is kind of split there. And we'll tilt this one up and do the same. And you don't want to go crazy with trimming these, because if you keep at it, you won't have any wings left. So just get it close, and that'll be good enough. Now from here, we're going to put the finish on it. And the finish is just Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. And when you buy this finish, it's going to be a little bit on the thin side. But as you use this and you use some of it out of the bottle, some of the thinner in it is going to start to evaporate out. It's going to get thicker. And that's when it actually gets better. Because right now, when this is kind of thin, it's going to take me probably, because this is a brand new bottle, brand new. It's going to take me probably 3 coats of this finish to get this fly to look where I want it. You don't want it super shiny, slick, but you don't want it rough either. So it's going to take me about 3 coats. Now, as this gets thicker, you can do it in 1 coat. But, you know, if you're following this video, you may have an old bottle on hand. If not, and you go buy materials from the store, it's going to be thin. So I'm going to give this a good shake. And this is going to bleed these colors a little bit, which I actually think it makes the fly look better myself. But they're going to bleed and move around a little bit. The key is to not brush it any more than you have to. Put a light coat of finish on it, get away from it, and let it set up. Once you get that first coat on it, it's going to kind of lock those colors in where you have them. And then the second and third coat isn't going to do as much to move it around. Also, as this gets thicker, like I was talking, and you can do it with 1 coat, it's not going to move it as much then. It's when it's thin and a new bottle that it really starts to wash these colors around. But I'm going to put a good coat on this, and then we're going to walk away and let it set up. Now, when I'm putting this on, well, I have to apologize. The memory on my camera got full when I was putting the finish on this fly, and it cut off. I did go ahead and finish the fly out off of the camera while I was making some room, but you saw me start to brush the finish on and stuff. It did take 3 coats of this Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. It's a new bottle, so the nail polish is pretty thin. Once the bottle ages and you use some out of it, it's going to thicken up some. And once it gets thicker, you can usually do these in 1 coat, sometimes 2, but this new bottle's thin. It took me 3 coats. Where it's thin, it also makes the marker bleed just a little bit more. You can see, I mean, all these triangles are bigger than I originally made them. They bled around, they moved a little bit. But honestly, I like that look. It kind of seems like it blends the fly together. So I don't mind that so much. I'm actually really, really happy with how this fly came out. You can see the monofilament ribs sticking up, which is what you want. That's what the monofilament's for, is it kind of gives it that insect look. And it does help make the fly a little more durable by holding it to the hook. But your glue or your epoxy is mostly doing that job. The monofilament is more for looks. So I'm really, really happy with how this came out. I don't know if the camera cut off or caught it, but when you put your finish on, fan your wings out to the shape you want them before you start the finish, and then brush over just a little bit into them. And you can see how the start of these wings here is really stiff. And when you brush over into them a little bit and it sets up, it's going to lock those wings in, and it's going to help hold this shape. So it'll keep this nice look to it. So there you have it, folks. That is the Bunyan Bug number 2 from the movie A River Runs Through It. I hope you follow this video and tie you some of these. It is a fun tie. It's really satisfying when you get one of these to come out looking nice. It is a little tougher than most flies you would tie, I suppose, just because of the sanding and the working with the cork. Other than the cork, it's really not that bad. But it's extremely satisfying to tie these. If you're going to take them out and fish them, which I am going to, you want to get some of these right here. This is a micro swivel. This is the 20-pound version. You can pick these up at fly tying suppliers or fly fishing suppliers. You can also get them on Amazon, which is where I got them. I think I got 100 of them for like $7 or something. So relatively cheap. Put one of these about 10 to 12 inches up the line from your fly, because with these solid wings like this, any fly that's like this, the balsa bugs that I tie also, if you've seen my other video, these balsa bugs will also helicopter really bad through the air. Anything with this solid wing, when you cast it, it's going to work like a propeller and just really make a mess of your leader. So you really need to have a micro swivel in the line. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you tie some of these and go out and fish them. If you have any comments or whatever, or questions, you can leave them in the comments. I'll try to get to them. But this is the Bunyan Bug number 2 from the movie A River Runs Through It. And tie you some. Go out and fish them. Have fun. Let me know how you do. Thanks for watching.